This conference will now be recorded.
Hi guys, good evening. This is Suresh here. Am I audible, guys?
Thanks, sir.
Yeah. Good evening one and all. Okay, so guys, in our session yesterday, we have been looking on the success factors instance overview, the way how the success factors system screens look like, the various navigations of it, the admin center, upgrade center, the provisioning system. In this front-end system, what an end user will have the different options under this settings on the right-hand top corner. So what all individual options that they have, the mobile app downloading part. So all these are the various things at a high level at this initial stage, what you should be aware of the instance handling part is what I've given you an overview of this system screens and navigations. And in our session today, now we are going to start looking towards a concept of implementation methodology. So in the time whenever we are implementing any projects that might be IBM is implementing or Accenture is implementing. So any company when they're implementing success factors projects for their customers, what is the methodology that they follow is what we are now going to discuss. Basically, methodology is all about the different stages of the project. Whenever you are implementing a project, the different stages, what we see across is what we call it as a methodology. So let me just open one presentation for you. But before that, any specific questions does anybody have from the previous session, guys? On the complete success factors, screens overview, the provisioning system and all what we saw yesterday. Any questions from anyone? So
Yesterday you mentioned that into the XML files, we do not need to make any changes. So in case there are any specific fields required by the customer, which are not covered through XML files. So how
okay.
come, I mean, if we are not making any modifications into the XML, so how come those requirements could be met?
We'll definitely come into that when we start looking into the XML sessions, how to handle those XML files or changes on that. We'll be definitely looking into it. So as I clearly mentioned, we don't do any new coding on XML. Okay, it's any attribute changes and any completely new field additions. We have a front-end screens for that. So whatever XMLs we are uploading, for majority of the XMLs, we have a front-end screens where we can make the changes, even on the standard fields to be deleted, new fields to be added, modifications on the fields, everything. We have the front-end screens available once we upload the XMLs. Okay. So coming to this agenda today, guys, implementation methodology. So this one that you see on my screen, SAP Activate. This SAP Activate is the methodology what standard success factors standard SAP basically recommends all the customers to adapt this methodology while implementing the success factors projects. So methodology, as I told you, it's all about the different stages of a project. So as you see on my screen now, prepare, explore, realize, and deploy. These are the 4 important stages of a success factors project implementation. So prepare is a first phase where once the project has been decided, say example, if IBM is going to do the project, customer has customer has given the project to IBM. Now concluding the scope of the project, what all modules we are implementing in that modules, to what extent of features and all we are going to plan to deliver, and what languages, what language packs we are going to deliver, and onboarding of consultants, consultants allocating to the project. All this will happen in the prepare phase, the first phase, the prepare phase. Okay, and then those allocated consultants will start doing the requirement gathering. So requirement gathering is where the consultants can travel to the customer place. They can sit with the process owners with all the modules, say performance process owner, employee central process owner, recruiting management process owners. So in the company side, whoever are the process owners who can explain their existing processes, their practices, and whatever the requirements that they are expecting from success factors, who can basically give us all these details. So those are the what we call them as process owners at the customer side. So these consultants will travel to the customer side. They will explore their existing processes, practices being followed, what are their pain areas, and the way how we can fit in the success factor solution for them, how we can deliver resolutions or workarounds for their existing pain areas. All that is what we do in the explore phase. So in all these conversations is where we come up with the requirements, what are to be delivered through success factors. So that is a requirement gathering process will all happen in the explore phase. And then realize is the main phase where majority of our project time will be in this realize phase, where the configuration of the product and even testing of the product both will happen in the realize phase. Configuration and even testing by customer both will happen in the realize phase. And finally, deploy is a phase where all the configurations will be moved into the production system. So in the realize phase, by the end of realize phase, if the customer has done all the testing and they say everything is working as per their requirements, now we can move all the configurations into the final production system, and there we can even do some production cutover activities like setting up the roles and authorizations for all the users, uploading of the existing employee data. So now when the customer is starting with success factors, all their existing old data, their existing employee database, which is in the previous HR system, from there to upload all their existing data into SF, setting up the permissioning, all that are the production cutover activities we call. The final, before we make the system live, all that activities we perform in the deploy phase. So preparing the main live system or the production system is what we call it as a deploy phase. That end of that deploy phase is where we announce the go live of the product and the customer will start using the system in the real time. So like this, these are the 4 important stages of success factors implementation cycle that we see. And in the realize phase is the place where we start our configurations in the development environment, development system. And whenever we are done with the configurations, we are required to give the system to the customer for testing. All the configurations will be moved from the development system to the quality or the testing system. So there in the testing system is where the customers will perform all the testing, and then we move it to the production system in the deploy phase. So in realize phase, we use 2 systems, development and even the testing system, and production system is what we see in the deploy phase. So these are all the 4 important stages of a standard success factors implementation methodology that we follow. Looking at this, you can ask me what is the difference when compared with when we compared with any other platforms like Java based, .NET based, any other platforms also, it's the same thing. So first the resources will be allocated, they do the requirement gathering, they do the configuration, testing, and finally they prepare their live system and all. This is common when compared to the other platforms also. So what is that makes a difference here in success factors activate methodology is that the main difference we see here in the explore and the realize phase, guys. The explore phase and the realize phase, where in an explore phase, which we call it as the requirement gathering stage, in a normal traditional approaches of any other platforms, it might be Java, .NET, or even previous SAP solutions or Oracle solutions and all, we are basically used with preparation of a BBP document. A huge business blueprint document is what it is prepared with the company's specific processes, what are the requirements to be fulfilled in through this software, what we are now going to configure and all. It's a huge Word document is what we used to prepare, which is called a business blueprint document, which is something we are required to create. We are required to type each and every line and we are required to prepare that document. So replacing that here in the explore phase, success factors comes up with some predefined requirement gathering templates, which is Excel based. Okay, a complete change from the traditional approach of Word based business blueprint documents. Here it's Excel based documents, which we call them as workbooks. These are the standard success factors pre-delivered sheets actually, in which the requirement gatherings can be done, which we call it as workbook. So let me just show you, let's spell it out on the screen. 1 second. So this is what we call it as workbook. Okay, so this workbook is an Excel sheet in which we can do the requirement gathering, and those are all the success factors pre-delivered templates even, guys. I'll just show you a couple of examples of them as well. Just a moment.
Every consultant will have these Excel sheet from SuccessFactors.
Absolutely. Every module, recruitment module will have its separate requirement gathering sheets, employee central, performance management, everything will have its independent workbook documents.
And does it change over the period? Because there are a lot of update that comes in.
Absolutely. So I'll even show you the place where we actually get those things downloaded from as well. So now I'm showing on my screen. So this is that kind of an Excel worksheet in which we can actually take the requirements from the customer. So this is all the predefined template in which we are required to collect the inputs. Say example, the current thing is relevant to one of the sheets of Employee Central, where normally Employee Central is a module. Whenever we are required to establish this module in the system, we are required to create the list of departments of the company. So what all departments this company has, in which all locations this company's operations are performing. Okay, like that, the company structure layers items is what we are required to configure. That we'll discuss in detail in the Employee Central sessions anyways. So whenever we are required to create a new new department in SuccessFactors, the one that you're currently seeing on my screen. So this is a standard screen. This is the standard SuccessFactors department creation screen that we see. So the date of the start date of the department, some code of a department, name, description, who is the head of the department. Like this, we have some fields on the screen. This is a standard screen. Now, during the requirement gathering process, we can showcase these standard screens that might be for creating departments, locations, and all, whatever are the standard screens we have, and even for maintaining the employee data, what are the standard screens SF will be giving us, all that we'll be showcasing the customers, so that whatever changes and amendments required, either they don't want one particular field, or they want to add one more custom field, or relabel this field, make a field mandatory, non-mandatory. So any such changes that the customer is expecting to have on this, on the left hand side, here you have all that columns listed, guys. What all fields you are seeing actually in that screenshot, the code of the department, name of the department, description of it, start date of it, like this, they're all listed here with the field label, that standard technical field IDs, and the label, standard label what SF has given. So with the data type, what type of a field it is, it's a string field, or it's a drop down field, or it's a date field. Like this, the data types, the length of the fields, mandatory, non-mandatory conditions. Like this, you have all these. So here you can start recording the customer specific inputs. If any changes are required on these attributes, which is standard defined, or else scrolling down completely, if you want to add a custom field, they give you a placeholder for custom. So if you want to add one custom field or 10 custom fields, you can just keep on adding additional rows here, and you can record those new customer requirements. Okay, so how many custom fields we can add and all is what we'll discuss in detail in the further sessions. So at this stage, so this is how this requirement gathering sheet looks like. If any length specific requirements to be updated, customer field labels to be changed, mandatory, non-mandatory conditions, or any other specific inputs to be recorded, customer specific, we can record them here. Similarly, when I'm creating locations, so here we have a location specific screen. So whenever you create a location, again, code of a location, name of a location, description, the time zone of this location, what is the actual registered address of that location, the business address of that location. So either a company is having their corporate office in that location, or it's a factory, or it's a what do you say, it's a industry, what's there, or it's a warehouse, what is there. So whatever customer has in there, whether it is a warehouse or a manufacturing plant, or it's a corporate office, whatever, the registered address of that office is what they can record it here. So like this, they have these many fields whenever they create a new location in the system, that plant address and all. So for that, everything is listed here. All that screen fields are listed here. Similarly, we can make any changes, whatever required, that customer specific inputs can be recorded. So like this, Employee Central has 3 to 4 different sheets in which requirement gathering can be done. For employee data screens related, it's separate. For this master data, like departments, locations, kind of things, a separate thing. And even for a separate concept of position management, a different Excel sheet. For leave management, a separate Excel sheet in which we can take the requirement gatherings. So these are all predefined templates such that if we follow each and every sheet, each and every cell in this document, we will not miss any point in the requirement gathering. You will not come across a situation that I missed to check this point with the customer kind of. You will not experience that situation. Going through all these Excel files completely end to end, every pinpoint of requirement you can discuss with the customer and you can record it officially. And on these documents, we take the sign off from the customer. The customer has to review these, whatever inputs we have gathered, and they have to approve this. Once we get this sign off is only when we get started with our configurations actually. So that is one main difference in the explore phase when compared to any other platforms in the market, when compared with SuccessFactors. Okay, that is the main difference of explore phase, where other modules like recruitment, performance, or any other modules will have only one single Excel sheet with different tabs in it. Employee Central is the only module that will have up to 4 different sheets in which we take the requirements. For all the rest of the modules, it's only one Excel sheet you will have in which we take the requirements.
So depending upon the requirement, we'll be choosing that Excel sheet, Suresh.
For every mod, Employee Central related, all 4 modules would all 4 files you are definitely required to use. If you are EC consultant, employee data related requirements you are required to take in one sheet. Foundation, company structure in one sheet. Leave management related in one sheet. Like that, definitely we are required to use all the files. Okay.
Okay. So depending upon the requirement only, we'll be choosing that Excel sheet. I mean workbook.
Not requirement. There is nothing like requirement, right? If you are EC consultant, definitely you are required to fill all those files. There is nothing again a point called requirement. In that files is where you are required. You are going to record the requirements. You are not. You are not in a situation to choose which Excel file. If you are EC, what are to be filled in, you already have designated. If you are a PMGM consultant, what sheet you are required to access is it's already designated. In that you are just required to record the requirements from the customer. It's not that based on the requirements which sheet to be taken, you need not make that choice. It's all predefined.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
And the next stage is this realize phase, guys. In this, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Parul,
sorry,
please.
yeah. Where do you get these Excel sheets?
I'll just show you. Let me first complete this slide. So where to get those documents? In the slide, you'll even see that.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So the next thing is the realize phase, guys. Where in the realize phase is the place where, as I told you, we do the configuration and testing. So what is it different from the other platforms, any other technologies in the market, and when compared to SuccessFactors, what it makes the difference here is we follow an agile methodology here. In the realize phase, it's where the agile methodology being followed, where say example, if you are given a timeline of 20 weeks for implementing this project. Okay, so the complete 20 weeks we don't sit on the configurations. In the normal other traditional approaches, almost 16 weeks they sit on the configurations, and all on sometime on the 16th or 17th week we go in front of the customer trying to demonstrate the product to them, and then any changes they are saying, any issues that they are identifying there, then we have to fix it. We are required to do the training, testing, all that in the last place. So instead of that, here in the agile process, we divide the timeline into different parts. So if you are given with around 20 weeks of time, so you can first start your configurations and work for initial, say 5 weeks. So first 5 weeks you work on the configurations, and then you go in front of the customer with around 30% or 40% of the product what has been configured. Initial 5 weeks example, just 30%. On the 6th week you demonstrate whatever you are ready with, so that the customer will get a chance to visualize the system without waiting till the end of the timeline. At the in between the configuration cycle also, they get a chance to visualize what is happening, what is output that is coming up. So in this early stage of demonstration itself, if they find that something is wrong, the understanding between the consultant and the process owner is something wrong, if they have to completely change the process, this is not what they're expected, we'll have a chance to correct it at the early stage. So that is an advantage. So we divide this project timeline into different parts, like 5 weeks, every 6 weeks kind of, and we go in front of the customer. So first, in the 6th week, we go in front of the customer, we demonstrate the product, whatever are the observations, feedback, any changes, we record them. We come back to the office and we work for again 4 to 5 more weeks. And again, somewhere in the 12th week, I'll go for second round of demonstration. So by that time, we have to make sure like around at least 70% of the product is ready. And here, this time, the changes will be like any workflow changes, any custom fields addition, small changes. It will not be a complete scratch level change again, because already we have given an opportunity to visualize in the 6th week itself, and you already saw this. So here the changes will be not complex changes, some workflow changes, custom fields, custom screens, anything maximum that might come, not a complete process specific change. And then coming back again to office, you work on the remaining configurations for next 4 more weeks. And again, somewhere in the 16th week, you go in front of the customer, where by this time we have to make sure the product is 100% configured, and we will show the end-to-end product, end-to-end scenarios, complete testing of it is what we will be able to do it on that system by the end of the by the end of 16th week, where we go in front of them for the 3rd time. And here whatever changes we will be taking from the customer will be very minimal. Any cosmetic changes only will be accepted. Huge workflow changes, huge process specific changes will not be entertained at this stage, because we already shown you 2 times. Last time we are showing you the end-to-end scenario. Okay, so that is the way how it goes. And then after these 16th week is where we train the customer, the administrators, we start training the product and we release it for testing. And after the testing, the production activities and all will happen in a sequence wise. Okay, so that is where we have this kind of an approach. Let me just share my screen. One second, let me complete this. Jitu, just let me complete this. I'll take the questions. So this is a way where we divide the timeline, guys. So the customers can choose whether they want to break it down into 2 parts or 3 parts. And if the project is very complex with multinational implementation, multinational project like multiple countries and all, so then they can even increase it to 4 rounds, 5 rounds also, depends upon the project scope. So this is an example where the first few weeks on which we work, we call it as the iteration period, and we go for the first walkthrough of the product. Then again, after a few more weeks of second iteration, few more weeks we work, second round of walkthrough of the system. And again, finally, 1 more round of configurations. We complete the 100% configurations by this stage, iteration 3 period. That is where we go for the final walkthrough of the product. So once all this is done, then is where we start releasing the product for the testing. That might be user level, user aided testing, integration testing, automation testings, whatever to be done, we do it here in this place. So both configurations and even testing will all be done over here in the realize phase. Okay, and just to look at this, how it actually appears in the real time in terms of a project plan, a typical project plan, just to cover all these stages in a project. If it's a 20-week timeline given for a project covering all these 4 stages, this is how we can expect a project plan to be looking at a very high level, where the first 2 weeks is where we can dedicate for this prepare and explore phase. So onboarding of the consultants to the project, and those consultants do the requirement gathering from the customer, all that initial 2 weeks say. Then they start working for the configurations, the first iteration period for 5 weeks, and they go in front of the customer for walkthrough on the 8th week. And again, second round of iteration period for 4 more weeks, and again second round of walkthrough, and final configuration period of iteration for 3 weeks, and final walkthrough. And here is where the next 2 more weeks give for testing, trainings and all, and the last week is where we are giving it for say production system setup, go live week. The last day of this 20th week we can announce go live. So covering all the 4 stages, this is how we can actually expect a high level project plan in the real time for a project to be executed, we can see. So this is very simple one, where this can be based on the scope of the project. If it's you are implementing only one single module of small modules like PMGM or compensation, any small modules, it can even be completed in just 16 weeks. If it's complex projects, there are also instances where it went for 28 weeks, 36 weeks, like that. The timelines will be agreed mutually between the implementation partner and the customer actually. Okay, so this is how the project methodology, the implementation methodology of SuccessFactors looks like. Yeah, Jitu, your question, please.
So Suresh, just a question, on an average, for all the projects, okay, all the modules, okay, module wise, how much time does it take to implement?
So for
End to end.
talent, so on an average, it takes between 16 to 20 weeks max for talent modules. But if it is employee central in place, definitely minimum we plan it from 18 to 24. Or if it is more complex, there are instances where we even run for 28 weeks kind of. So completely you can take like success factors implementations will go around 6 months. If it is employee central, max 8 months. That's it.
Okay. And just a question, let's say if we get certified and we are consultant, okay. So at one point of time, we'll be working in one project or multiple projects?
That's completely the employer decision. So in one project, you will be allocated to only one module at a time. That is clear. If you are working for say Beverages Limited, you are allocated for either EC or either PMGM or either recruitment like that. You are not generally assigned with two modules in the same project. But parallelly, your employer utilizing you for some other project, say PepsiCo Limited, the PepsiCo Limited success factors implementation that they can do. So that is definitely there in the real time. Talent module consultants will be definitely reused between multiple projects. Employee Central is one being a little bit complex module. That consultants will be normally dedicated for project generally. Okay.
Suresh, you said that these workbooks are to be signed off from the client before we start with the configuration. And in case the workbooks are signed off from the customer and we go ahead with the first demo and there are multiple changes, so are those changes incorporated again into the workbook? I mean, it has already been signed off. And
Absolutely, that's a really good question. So that is a recommended approach what SAP suggests every consultants to make sure any changes on these processes what are signed off to again update in that workbook and take a latest sign off, again send it for updated version after IT1, after IT2, after IT3, iteration 1, 2, 3 like that. With the updated one we are required to take the sign off. Okay, so that is about this Activate methodology, guys. And the next thing is about some important websites that we come across in our success factors consulting. What are the regular sites that we are required to access? The SAP specific websites are these three main things: Partner Edge, Customer Community, and the Support Portal. So the first one, okay, all these three sites, guys, first of all, to be accessed in, you should be certified on success factors. You should be having a success factors certification credentials. Whenever you are certified on any of the module, you will be assigned with some S-user credentials. So with that S-user credentials only, you will be able to download any content from these websites. So you are able to log in, you are able to navigate on these sites. If you are required to access some documentation, download some content, you will be required to log in, where that login credentials you will receive only when you're certified. Okay, so the first one called the partneredge.com is a place where you will have a lot of SAP contents, a lot of SAP documents, and this is a place where we even get these latest workbooks. The place where we download this requirement gathering sheets is this Partner Edge. So every 6 months, whenever SuccessFactors is coming up with new updates, they even release a latest version of the requirement gathering workbook. Even it is one line newly added or one sheet newly added, anything, they keep updating their workbooks here. So whenever you are going for a new project, a fresh start of a project requirement gathering, we are every time recommended to download the latest version of the requirement gathering sheets. If you already have your sheets of what you downloaded 3 months back, 4 months back, do not depend on it. They download the latest one from this partneredge.com is what we recommend. So use that for requirement gathering. So that is one. And even a lot of documentations with respect to the implementation documents, some administrator documents, some sample job aids for practice kind of a documents, and even standard success factors hosting will be hosting some training sessions and some webinars with the customers. So the recordings of those sessions and some training calendars, if there are any training programs, official training programs being launched by SAP, demonstrating the new features being released and all. So that training calendars, lot of stuff you will find in the Partner Edge. Okay, So that is the importance of a partner edge website, where such kind of lot of content will be downloadable. And next is the customer community. This customer community is a place that is more relevant for all the global customers, guys. So all the customers across the globe, that might be an Indian customer or a US customer, Australian customer, anybody will be having a login access into this website. So from one project, from the project management team of that customer side, at least 3-4 people will have access into this customer community, so that this is a place where all the customers across the globe can access and collaborate at one place. So here they can find lot of documentation, something not at a technical perspective like configuration kind of, product features, some product brochures kind of, product features documents, and the roadmap documents, what is SAP planning to develop in the further next 1 year, 2 year or 3 years down the line. Okay, every 6 months updates, whatever are they planning to release, that related updates, all these various stuff they can find there. And even customer events, whatever they are conducting, or webinar meetings, what they have conducted, and they have recorded that webinar sessions links, all that will be found in the customer community. And very important feature of this portal is they will have an option to raise an enhancement request. Say if I am a customer and I feel there is a particular feature or a functionality currently not available in SuccessFactors, I can raise an enhancement request requesting for that feature or a functionality. Okay, and the global customers who are having access to that website, they all can participate in that, and they can give their voting for a request. What I have made an enhancement request, they can give their voting. So how many customers across the globe are even looking for a similar kind of a requirement, that votes will be counted, and which requirements are getting more attention from the global customers, SAP will take those enhancement requests for the further development, and in the regular 6 months updates, whenever that development is done, they will release it as a new feature. So this enhancement request is a very powerful tool that every customer can make use of, and they can raise whatever their new requirements that they're expecting out of the product here in this place. And even we as a consultants also have the access to this website, and even we can raise a request. Say example, you have done 3 projects. In all 3 projects, customer has asked you some particular feature, and you are just saying them this is not available in product as on date. So such kind of things, what you are regularly facing as a consultant, even you can raise as an enhancement request in this customer community. Even we will have access to this customer community websites. Okay, so that is the customer community, where all the customers will have a login access into this website. And the last one is the support portal, where whenever you're experiencing any issues with the system, so that might be there is some functionality which is documented in the SuccessFactors implementation guides and all, where you're following all the steps as it is, but the functionality is not working properly, there are some issues in it, you want to raise it to the official SAP. Or there is some feature which is not currently available, but customer is very much insisting on that thing. Now you need some suggestions or guidance from the backend engineering team on how to solve this. Either they will be able to give us any workaround or any other response that they can help us to convey to the customer. So such kind of things, wherever you would be looking back for a backend SAP support, is where you can raise that things here. So few things will be, you can also have some SLAs like high priority, low priority, medium priority kind of tickets you can raise. So wherever if you are stuck with anything, either the configuration stage or in the live system, in the production system, you can raise that and you can get the responses from the backend support team of SuccessFactors. So these are the 3 important sites what we regularly access in our SuccessFactors consulting, guys. Okay, apart from this, there are a couple of other sites which we'll basically discuss during the configuration sessions, but at a very starting level, these are the 3 minimum things that you are required to know. Any questions here? Okay, so this is about the basics about the implementation methodology, how the SuccessFactors project, once it is started, the different stages, how it goes, and we as a consultant, what important websites we regularly access and all. Now getting into the next important content, guys, is with respect to the day 1 activities of a project. So till now we have been discussing on the systems overview, the overview of success factors, the modules in it, okay, how the systems look like, all that things, what is a cloud model, etc., etc. Now let us get into the main contents. Like, so now once you're done with this training program, you guys are certified and you got a job on success factors. Right from the day one, whenever you're allocated to the project, so what are the steps that you are required to take is what we'll start discussing it now. So in that regard, first thing is, if you are allocated to the project to work on anything on the configuration, you need the access to the system. The customer system access is what you require. Okay, so for that purpose, what we generally do in the real time, say you are now employed with IBM, some project manager has come to you and said that Mr. Suresh, you have been allocated to this project. Now what is your immediate step? So what are you now going to do? How do you get the access to the customer system to start working on it is the first thing. So in that thing, guys, to gain the access to the customer system, we need to raise a request in one of the official SAP website. Okay, so we have a website called as Cloud Operations Portal. HCM Cloud Operations Portal is one website we say. In that website, we are required to raise a request to the official SAP. Once we raise that request, within 5 business days, max within 5 business days, so we'll be receiving that response from the official SAP once they grant that access to us. To raise a request, first of all, we need some approval mail to be taken from the customer side project management team. So if you are allocated to a project of Coca-Cola project, Coca-Cola Beverages Limited is the customer, IBM is your company, you're a consultant of IBM. Now you as a consultant of IBM should write an approval email to the customer side project management team and say that you are so and so person representing for this company, for you have been allocated for this project, for this module, and requesting their approval to work on their project as a consultant. Once you request that email, and if they approve, the customer side project management team approves that request, attaching that approval email, we are required to raise a request on this HCM Cloud Operations Portal. So this is also one of the SAP website in which you will be able to log in only with the user credentials of your SuccessFactors certification, and you will be able to raise a request for that customer specific system. So the first step is to get an approval email from the customer, and that approval email you should also get the confirmation on the customer ID. So every project, so Coca-Cola project or PepsiCo Beverages Limited or Air India, Turkish Airlines, whatever is a project that you are implementing, for every SuccessFactors customer, SAP has given one unique ID, guys. Company ID we say, company ID or customer ID, something. So that ID is what customer has to give us. And second thing, the data center. So across the 15 data centers that SAP is operating across the globe today, in which data center is your customer's database hosted? Either it is in Sydney, Australia data center, or it's in Netherlands, Amsterdam data center, or Saudi Arabia data center. We are required to know that. So these details SAP will tell to the customer. So from customer, we are required to take that inputs. What is the ID given to your project? What is the data center in which your database is hosted? So those two things also we are required to request in the approval email. So once we get that approval email with that details, now here in this HCM Cloud Operations Portal, attaching that approval email, we can raise a request. So that will be our first activity once you are allocated to the project, what you are supposed to do. Even before going for requirement gathering or anything, we are first required to concentrate on that thing. So in that process, one second. Let me open one document and show you. So if you access that HCM Cloud Operations Portal, so how that screens look like, I have a detailed document with all the screenshots, navigations made. I'll show it to you. So this is the hyperlink, HCM Cloud Operations Portal website. Once you log into it with the credentials of your certification, in this menu, the top menu bar in that website, the first menu item called Operation Request is where we go. Under Operation Request, you get 2 items like this. Among them, again, the first one called Request Forms is what we are required to access. First one called Operation Request. Under that, again, the first one called Request Forms. Once you click on it, in the next page that opens in the name of BizX provisioning account mapping request, again under that the first one called customer instance access request. These are the three navigations that you are required to follow. First menu item, in that the first drop down item, and again in the next screen the first one called customer instance access request. This is what you are required to click on it finally. So when you hit on it, there will be an application form kind of that will open up. Customer instance access request, we call it as CAR form, so we don't call it as CAR, we call it as CAR in real time. CAR ID, some CAR request is what they call. So this is the one, customer instance access request. So this is the screen that you are required to fill in. There are some 7 to 8 important items that you are required to fill in all the details of your project and request. In that regard, first thing is the customer name. So whatever is your customer name, Coca-Cola Beverages Limited, Turkish Airlines, whatever, the customer name is what you are required to give. The estimated go live date. So if you're going to start the project in this week or next week kind of, so by when you are planning to go live in next 6 months or next 8 months, some tentative go live date is you are required to give. It can be tentative. And then here you are required to enter the company ID for your customer's project, whatever is ID that has been given that they have confirmed to you, that ID is what you are required to enter. And the data center, out of the 15 data center locations that we have today, in which data center is your customer's database is hosted. So here you will have that 15 data centers as a drop down that comes up. In that you can choose the data center that is applicable for your project. That is the second thing. And the company side, the customer side, who has actually approved your request. So you wrote an approval email and somebody has approved it from the customer side, that is from Coca-Cola Limited, they have approved. So who is that person who approved? Their email address is what you are required to maintain here. The company side approver email address you are required to maintain here. So like this, these are the 3 important details that you are required to fill in. Okay, and then coming to the next page, here you are required to choose the continuation of that request. Which module are you requesting the access for? So you have been allocated to this project for Employee Central or for recruitment or for performance. For which module you are allocated is only what you are required to choose. And you are required to make sure that you are certified on that module. If you are not certified and you are requesting an access for performance management, you are not certified on it, your request will be rejected. So you are required to request for only that module for which you are implementing and which you are certified on. So though you are certified on 2-3 modules, you should not raise a request for all that modules. For which module you are allocated for, only that you are required to select. They clearly mention it in the pop-up as an information message also. They clearly mention it. You choose it only for that module for which you are allocated. Though if there are any other modules implemented, you don't select it. The other module consultant who is allocated for that respective module will raise that request. So every module consultant is required to raise their own independent request for the customer system. So I am allocated for EC, I will select only EC. If my colleague is allocated for PMGM, he will select only performance and goals, like that. So we are required to choose the respective modules, and it is mandatory that we are certified. So that is why SuccessFactors certification is mandatory, guys. Okay, and here based on the ID, password, credentials with which you logged in, as SAP will already default your name and email address here. And here you will have the location, the region and the location of the project that you are required to select. Where region is nothing but the continents will be coming, guys. So whether it's the project of APAC region or EMEA or Latin America or African continent, here the regions drop down will come as all the continents. Once you choose say APAC, in the APAC region, what are all the countries? In the location you get all the countries. If I choose APAC, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Australia, all these, Singapore, Malaysia, all that will come here in the locations. If I choose a region as EMEA, so the Middle East countries, so Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, all that will come in the location list, like that. So for which region specific project you are working, you are required to choose that. And here you are required to upload that approval attachment. Whatever is the customer's approved email that you have, you are required to upload that email here, and your certification. the PDF for copy of your certification. When you certified whatever has been issued by SAP to you, you are required to upload that here. So like this, filling all these details, that's self-explanatory guys, nothing complex. So just coming to the screen and filling all these details as asked by the SAP, and you submit this request. As soon as you submit, first you'll receive an acknowledgement email within 2 minutes, and max within 5 business days you will receive the customer system credentials. What is the URL, what is the ID, password and all, the way how we are required to access the customer system. You will get all that credentials in a separate email in max 5 business days, but these days they are giving it even within 24 hours also. Max, even if there is any weekend and all, max on the second day or third day also they are giving it. So that is how the customer instance access request process will be done from this website. So these are the steps. First, get an approval email. Once you get that approval email with the customer ID, data center details, raise a request to the official SAP through this HCM Cloud Operations portal, and within 5 business days is where you get the system access. And that access, what you get is basically to the customer's provisioning system, guys. Because we have 2 systems, provisioning and the instance system. Provisioning system is what we get when we raise this request. For the instance system, the front end of the system, you need not request anybody. From the provisioning, you can raise your own credentials for the front end instance system. That is what the 5th point here is. Create an admin user from the provisioning for accessing the instance of the customer. So once you log in into the provisioning, there itself you will find a place where we can create our own ID, password, credentials to access the front end system of the customer, the instance system. Now, okay. So this is the sequence of steps, and that detailed document with the PDF screenshots and all, I'll be sharing it to you guys today after the session. Any questions here? Okay. So once you get the access to the customer system, guys, so normally provisioning is a system, as I already told you, provisioning is a system where we do all the basic settings, switches, activations. So which modules to be activated, in that module, which features and functionalities to be activated, language packs to be activated, out of 43 languages, which languages to be activated. So that is what we are required to do, as I already told you in the previous yesterday's session. So when you're done with the requirement gathering with the customer, you will understand what to be activated, what not to be activated and all, you will have a clarity. But even before the requirement gathering, once you get the system access, there are some minimum basic things that every consultant has to make sure that are activated in the system. Irrespective of any module, you belong to EC, recruitment, PMGM, anything, irrespective of any module, there are some basic 4 to 5 things that you are required to make sure you are doing those things as soon as you get the access to your customer's provisioning system. So that are this. The first thing is language packs. So which languages we are going to implement for this customer? You need not wait for the requirement gathering. That would have been already decided in the project scope, in the prepare phase. In the project scope itself, IBM, the company, the implementation partner, and the customer might have already agreed. So that out of that 43 languages, which languages to be activated, we can right away do it in the provisioning. And we are required to activate something called as profile. So profile is a thing where you saw that all the employee data, employee personal details, salary details, his dependent details, everything on one profile screen on the front end yesterday, right? So that profile page to be activated in the provisioning, we are required to activate a checkbox called profile V12. So activate is nothing but selecting a checkbox, guys, as you already saw yesterday. So profile V12 we say. So V12 is nothing but the version 12 of the UI. The current complete SuccessFactors screens are on the version 12 of the UI, where in 2011 December, when SAP acquired SuccessFactors, as I told you, at that point of time it is in version 9. In last 8 to 9 years, 3 more rounds of version improvements have been done, and almost since 2016, currently we are on version 12 only. All modules of SuccessFactors are on version 12 UI. The latest UI is version 12. And then we are required to activate this permissions framework. RBP is what? Role-based permissions. As I told you, in SuccessFactors, we can have a robust control on the authorizations. As an employee, what all you should get, as a manager, as a HR, as a HOD, everything we can properly assign the permissions on their role based, what role they execute, they basically have in the company. Based on that permissions can be given. That is what we call role based permissions as a framework. So this is one that you are required to activate in the provisioning, so that in the front end instance system we can work on that permissioning module wise. And then one more thing is attachment storage. Of course, all these things I'll even explain, show you on the system as well, guys. It's not just theoretical. I'm just giving you an introduction where to make it, how to navigate and make these activations. I'll definitely show it to you as well. Don't worry. So the fourth point, attachment storage. So this is one main point that you guys are required to understand. So some people used to ask me, like, say example, a company has 100 employees. Some company might be having 10,000 employees, some might be having 50,000 employees, large workforce. Now the volume of data of all these employees when you are loading into the SuccessFactors system, this will increase. For a 100 employee company, 10,000 company, or 50,000 employee company, the volume of data is increasing. So what is the limit that we have for one customer? Is there any capping of the volume of data that we load into the SuccessFactors system? In that regard, guys, all this employee data, whatever you are loading into the system, is all digitally stored. So on the screen, you are entering their first name, last name, all these details. They are all electronically seen on the screens. They are all stored in the system. So for this data, either you have a 100 employee company or 50,000 employee company, on that there is no limit. Okay, but anything that you are completely storing as a file attachments, a PDF file attachment, Excel file attachments that you are storing in the system. Say example, when you are hiring an employee, if you are storing his educational document scan copies, his passport, visa copies, his date of birth certificate, marriage certificate, all these attachment copies, these kind of documents attachments, if you are going to store in the system across all the modules we have, in recruitment module, resumes you will upload, in performance module, some other attachments like this. When you have a lot of attachments coming in, for that SAP will give you a restriction on the total storage limit. But for the actual employee data electronically, whatever you are recording in the system, his first name, last name, his salary details, his education details, all this, you will not have a limit on it. For attachment specific, you have a limit where it is maximum given to 1000 GB. 1000 GB is the maximum space that is given for any customer, where initially it will be set to only 50 or 100 GB. You can increase it to 200, 500, 1000 gradually. So that attachment storage, to which point you are first required to limit. So first let us set it to 500. When that 500 is completed, then we'll look at increasing to 1000, or in this 500 itself we will delete some documents and reduce it, whatever call the customer has to take. So that attachment storage limit is also what the customer can set in the provisioning system. Okay, and then as I told you, for the instance, for the front end instance system, you need not raise a request to the official SAP. You can create your own credentials. You can create your own credentials set to access the front end instance system of the customer. So from the provisioning, every consultant has to raise his own credential set. So once I got the access as EC consultant, my colleague got his access as a performance consultant and all, then they will go to their own provisioning accounts and they will create their own credentials for accessing the front-end instance system. Those are the 5 initial basic things that you are required to make sure. And once you are done with the requirement gathering of your respective module, so EC specific what all activations to be done, performance specific what all to be done, like that module specific consultants, they will take care of their module specific things in the provisioning. But applicable for anybody, the commonly these 5 things are what to make sure they are looking at these settings are enabled or not. Basically, even if 5 consultants are raising a provisioning access, the access is going to be given to the same system, guys. It's not 5 different systems. To the same system, 5 people are getting the access. So if one person activates all this, it is enough. All 5 people need not do it. But it is a responsibility of all the 5 consultants to make sure these minimum settings are made or not. If I got the access first as an EC consultant, today itself I immediately made it within. The next day, if the PMGM consultant got the access to the same provisioning system, by the time they come here and see this, it is already seen as activated. because yesterday itself I got the access and I have already done it. But it is a responsibility of all the consultants to make sure these minimum settings are made in the system or not. Okay. So these are the things where these things we can even see them in the provisioning system. Just a moment. So let me just log into the provisioning system, guys. As you know that, as I clearly mentioned yesterday, provisioning and the instance systems you are required to access in two separate browsers. You cannot access both the instance and the provisioning system in the same browser at a time. So I'm just logging into the provisioning system in the background in another browser. Just a moment. Yeah. So this is how the backend provisioning system looks like, as I shown you yesterday. The company for which company you are implementing the project, that company name will be coming here as an hyperlink. So I just gave this name of the company as demo system. I just click on the hyperlink of this company and enter into the company specific provisioning page. And in this, as we even discussed yesterday, this also, the very first thing called company settings is a place where we are required to access, go inside and enable and work on those checkboxes. So we have hundreds and thousands of checkboxes in that page. These 5 to 6 initial settings, what we are required to do is also there itself. So here, if you scroll a little bit, scroll down, from here the checkboxes are starting. Among them, as per the list, first thing is the language pack to be activated. So here we know that we have this language packs as a section. So out of the 43 languages, which languages to be implemented, which not to be implemented, we can check them and uncheck them as per our requirements, guys. So that is the languages selection, pretty simple thing that we are required to do in the first place. So in the top of the page itself, you can easily find this language packs. Just among the initial 10 to 12 checkboxes itself, you'll find it. It's easy to find that. But further, all the other things, profile, role-based permissions and all, you can't find them. You can't keep scrolling and find them. You are required to do a Control F search. So like this, profile V12 is what we can do a Control F search, and we are required to find where is that checkbox available. So here is the one, profile V12 as a checkbox that you are required to activate this. Okay, we can't remember at which point of scrolling we have it, so we do a Control F search and find it, guys. Profile V12, that is the second thing. Where this profile, just for you guys recap. Let me show it to you on the screen. So this is the one, my employee file. When I hit on it, so this screen where all the employee data is shown, this is called the profile. My employee file as a profile with various sections of information. This is what we call it as profile. So for this, we are required to activate this checkbox, profile V12. And then after this, the third one is the permissioning, role-based permissions, activate RBP, role-based permissions. So even this, so here you have this, guys, role-based permissions as a checkbox. So I normally use this refresh as a keyword. Just above this refresh as a word, we find this role-based permissions. This is the one that you are required to activate. So this will enable the permissioning model on the front end, and you can start creating the permission roles, groups and all, HR role, manager role, employee role, all that. That is this. And after this,
Suresh,
yeah,
sorry. Is this one-time activity or regularly, or we need to change this one? Provisioning.
obviously one time, right? Initial things, as I told you, provisioning things are
Okay.
all the things. First time you do it. Once
That's
you
it.
have these things, you can start working on the front end configurations. That's it. First 1
Okay.
week,
After that,
so we do this.
okay. After that, there is no time again. You can come back to provisioning and you need to change it. Maybe, right?
Not at Provisioning, once you activate, it will be as it is. You are not required to multiple times come and visit this place. Only for that XML files uploads and downloads only we will come back to provisioning. For making activations, it's a first one, day 1, day 2 activities only in provisioning. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the role-based permissions, guys. And the fourth one is attachment storage limit. Document attachments. So search in the name of, here you have document attachment is a keyword I searched. Here you have it. The first one called attachment storage allocation, where here in the system it's default set to 500 GB, 500, 750 and 1000 are the 3 different options. So previously till last 3 months back, before the last updates, we used to have it right from 10 GB. First is the 10 GB, next is 50, next is 100, 200, then 500 and all used to come. Now they have reduced all that. Minimum they kept it as 500 capping, because 10 GB and all is not applicable. So within 1 month the 10 GB might be exhausted. If you start hiring employees and uploading all their scanned documents, 1 GB, the 10 GB and all will be easily exhausted. So minimum 500 is what they have made in the recent updates. If you want to stop it here itself, or you want to directly give the 1000 GB at once, it's up to you. Okay, it's the customer decision. We recommend to keep it 1000 GB directly, because if you keep it to 500 and after 1 year or 1.5 years, if this 500 GB has been exhausted, if you are required to now increase it to 750 or 1000, you are required to do it in provisioning system, and customer doesn't have the access to the provisioning system. They are required to reach out to the support, again SAP support or some other support team. So instead of that, if you keep it to 1000 GB directly, so this will easily come for minimum 5 to 7 years. This will never get exhausted. So as per my experience in last 6 years, I did not see any customer getting exhausted with this 1000 GB space. Okay. So this is 1000 GB. Directly keeping it to the maximum possible value is the more recommended thing. So that is the fourth step. And then to create your own ID to log in into the front-end instance system. If you are a EC consultant, you create one ID as EC admin something. If you are a PMGM consultant, create some ID as PMGM admin kind of to log in into the front-end instance system. So for creating that, so here you have this section. Admin username, admin password, admin first name, last name, like this. So what should be your login ID, password, your first name, last name in that system, your email ID, all that you can fill in. You can generate your own credentials, and you can click on create admin on the right hand side, this button, create admin button on the right hand side. With that ID, password, credentials, whatever you are choosing, system will create one credential set to log in into the front-end instance system. So every consultant will do that same thing, and whenever we are trying to log in, so on my login page, that credentials what you are seeing as SF administrator, SF admin as an ID that you are seeing, this is also an ID that has been generated way from the provisioning system. I created this ID from the provisioning. With that credentials, I am able to log in into the front-end instance system. Okay, so that is the day 1 activities, guys. Once you are allocated to the project, how do you raise the request to the official SAP? Once you raise the request and you got the access, the minimum basic things what you are required to make sure you are maintaining in the provisioning system, these are all that. Any queries here? Anybody? Okay, so I'll be sharing you guys all these documents, guys, about the implementation methodology, the important websites, this day 1 activities of provisioning, how do you get the access to the customer system, all these documents by tomorrow morning you'll be having on your emails. Okay, and from Monday's session we'll even enter into the configs. So example, now we got the access to the customer system. What is the first config activity, from where we start our configurations? What are all the basic platform specific configurations that we require to do? So that is what we'll start looking from the Monday session, and most probably by Monday or Tuesday first off, I hope you guys will be even receiving the system credentials to the practice system to log in and practice on your system. So mostly by Tuesday first off, you will be getting the system credentials as well. Okay. So that's all.
Shiva, where do we download this Excel files
Excel files. Which
for the
can you come-
workbook for the workbooks?
you're asking where do we download it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, as I told you, this page, partneredge.com. In this,
Okay.
you'll be downloading all that requirement gathering workbook documents.
Okay, so these templates are predefined. So is it like company specific, like the beverage company will have a different template and the oil company will have another template like that?
Nothing. So when it comes to HR front, anything is the same. Even if it's a automobile company or it's a beverage company, you have employees, you have departments, you have locations, you have employee grades, all that. That has nothing different, industry specific here. So that requirement gathering templates are all the same. Okay. Any other queries, guys? Fine, gentlemen. That's a nice session. So let's again connect back same time on the Monday evening, nice 9 p.m. Wish you all a happy weekend. Thank you.
Okay.